Hey, what's up, guys? Man, yeah, there's a lot to talk about today. Christmas music intensifies. Man, you guys, yeah, there's a lot of news. Have you guys heard Ludwig's new Christmas album? Very inspirational. And we're gonna talk about the latest in corporate Nintendo bullshit news because there's been a lot of stuff that they've been doing. That I mean, I'm sure you guys, you know, if you've been keeping an ear to the ground, if you've been looking at Twitter at all, it's not even just fucking Melee. It feels like they're just going out of their way and on all fronts to just kind of be hated. I don't know. It's very strange. And it's getting to the point where, you know, at first it was just the free Melee thing. Not at first, really, because the first thing that of all of the events that transpired, actually, the first one that chronologically that I'm going to talk about is the situation with the Etikons, the guys selling the Etikons, the Joy-Cons as kind of a homage to the late Etika. But it's been this, that, and the other, and it just feels like there's new news coming out about Nintendo every single day. There was the whole Squid House thing and free Splatoon that happened over the weekend, which was really big. Is it true Nintendo's taking down Nintendo music playlists on YouTube? They've been doing that for a long time. And the latest, yes, there is a latest about that. So there's a couple, let me pull up a couple tweets here. If I was better prepared, I would have had this ready to go. And this little 30-second, 1-minute section where I was looking for these tabs, my editor will seamlessly trim out of the YouTube video. So all of you watching on YouTube don't have to watch me basically staring at my monitor. Isn't that wonderful for everyone watching on YouTube? But if you want that thrilling suspense, if you're watching on YouTube and you want that thrilling suspense of staring at my face as I focusedly look through the internet for tabs to pull up, and you want to talk to chat and pause champ with them instead of buying a Switch, save your money and buy a car. Yup, Mr. Rumdum with some brilliant insights. You could just buy a car if you don't buy a Switch. That, you know, if you want to bounce ideas off of other brilliant minds like that, you should come on over to twitch.tv/TophBBQ. I'm live on Twitch every weekday at 4 p.m. Anyway, would you download a car? You know, I would download a car for what it's worth. I actually would download a car. I remember when I was playing Danganronpa V3, I did download a car. But anyway. Okay, so first of all, this is the first thing I saw today. Certainly not the first thing that kicked off this latest train of bullshit orchestrated by corporate Nintendo. But yeah, so this is Gilvasunner, not the this is not the you know, high quality rips remix Silva Gunner, aka Givasunner, aka this is the original Gilvasunner, who, you know, he's basically known for uploading like rips of video game soundtracks to YouTube. And the thing that makes it egregious, so okay, Nintendo Japan has issued takedowns for Super Mario 64 soundtracks, Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart Wii. And this blows, right? Okay, first of all, a lot of Melee streamers, Mango included, are listening to you know, Mario music and Zelda music all the time. So you might be thinking, okay, you're trying to dodge the MCA. Okay, well, we'll put on some video game music because they're not going to take down a video game music on a stream because they're probably just playing the video game in question, right? Well, potentially wrong. And why this especially sucks is if you look on Spotify or any music streaming services, there are a lot of other companies like Capcom that upload video game soundtracks and make them available, or you can even go and buy the soundtrack somewhere. Nintendo almost never does this. So Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart, you cannot find those soundtracks. You cannot buy those soundtracks. This is not a case of, oh, well, support the artist. Don't pirate their music. Just support the artist. Well, you can't because they're not on sale anywhere. They don't sell the soundtracks. There's nothing to buy. There's nothing to, so it's literally just a net loss. It's just ensuring that no one, you know, as few people listen to this music as possible. I don't even know what their end goal is here. I mean, they've been doing this for a while, so this is basically this is Gilversunner's tweet. This is a reply to this tweet from August 13th, 2019, and this was Nintendo striking him for, you know, a bunch of music from other games, including also some Ocarina of Time stuff. So this has been going on for quite some time, but they don't seem to be stopping. Like that, it feels like yeah, it feels like the latest wave, and it's kind of been radio silence on Nintendo's end. They don't seem to have any plans to make this music available for purchase or for legal streaming of any way. So you have to wonder what their goal here is. You have to wonder what their goal here is. Is Nintendo just like accepting that people are starting to like them and going all out with it? Probably not. That would be an oversimplified way of looking at a company, I think. Corporations are not one person, though. Like, it's not like Nintendo's like, you know, you guys don't like me, fine. I'll spite you by taking down more of your music that you listen to. No, I'm really not sure. It could be some new hires or new, restructuring in the legal department that made them decide to become more aggressive. It could be a myriad of things. I really not clear. So in addition to this, the Etikons. So this was this happened 2 days ago, and there's been some articles put out already. This is the Polygon article. Nintendo shuts down Etikon control memorial, sparking backlash. So yeah, I'm sure all of you guys know who Etika was. He was a really beloved and kind of notorious for doing like reaction content where he'd kind of react really enthusiastically to some Nintendo stuff. Huge Nintendo fan. Who took his own life. There was a fan of his, Captain Alex, and there was some misinformation going on because someone was saying that, oh, Nintendo didn't C&D this guy's campaign to make these things, and these are basically themed. This is not what they look like. These are ordinary Switch controllers, and these are just controller shells. They're not, it's just like, it is actually a little bit bonkers because one of the Nintendo brand ambassadors that I follow, Miss Ganacris, I'm sure, I don't know if anyone's drawn this comparison yet, but basically she's known for doing custom amiibos. She'll do stuff like this, right? She'll customize amiibos and she'll it's actually very incredible. It's like an Among Us amiibo. She'll do going back, she's done a bunch of these, Nintendo characters or otherwise. And she's an official Nintendo of America ambassador. They retweet her stuff all the time. This feels similar, except it's using Nintendo. And I know corporations hate this stuff. Like if you worked at Twitch and you ever tried to do anything with the Twitch icon or the logo and it wasn't like approved directly by the design department, they would get very mad at you. Companies hate when you take their logo and you put a little spin on it. They hate that. I don't know why they hate it so much, but designers hate that stuff. Corporations hate that stuff. They're like, no, you gotta use the official, the spacing on the font is a little bit off and this circle's a little bit too high or something. You're defacing her. I don't fucking know. I don't get it. I've worked at companies that are like this and I still don't get it. They could probably go after her too, but she's an official Nintendo of America, ambassador. And obviously I'm really glad that she's allowed to do what she does because she's actually extremely talented and makes really cool content. But that's what I think this is. And, even more so, this is paying homage to someone who, passed away. So, it feels incredibly inappropriate and just honestly evil. Just the spirit of it is so insidious. I don't know. I can't believe somebody thought this was a good idea. I cannot believe they thought this was worth the negative press. Brand identity. Yeah, but unfortunately they're cultivating a different type of brand identity. They're cultivating a brand identity where everyone fucking hates them. But yeah, someone brought up, and I'm glad someone clarified this. Someone did bring up that there was this screenshot that said, hey, look, the campaign wasn't successful. It wasn't actually a C&D. But the creator himself, Captain Alex, specified, no. I did a second campaign. It was successful. The remaining stock of Joy-Cons were sale. So he's like, this is the whole timeline. I'm making it crystal clear. Nintendo C&D'd me. They said, you can't use these assets or whatever. It's, yes, you're on one hand, Nintendo is completely within their legal right. And you'll notice that a lot of the, Ness Avatar, Young Link Avatar, Nintendo fanboys that are coming out of the woodworks to defend Nintendo's actions, that's what they usually say. They're like, look, Nintendo is totally within their right. And no one's arguing that they aren't within their legal right. Of course they can do this. It's exactly because they can do this that they shouldn't, Right, and sorry, yes. And right, to make matters fucking worse, you're right, Too Many Falcons. The proceeds were going to goddamn charity. It wasn't even for fucking profit, man. Proceeds from each sale had gone to the JED Foundation, whose mission is to support the mental health of teens and young adults and prevent suicide. Look at this. Suicide prevention, the proceeds were going towards a charity for suicide prevention. It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It was, it was just completely this positive, wholesome thing, and Nintendo shut it down. And it's just becoming harder and harder, I feel, to defend them. It's just getting to the point where it's like, dude, what the fuck is going on? I'm looking at there's been a lot of, I retweeted this thread the other day from, again, someone outside of the community, this guy Liam Triforce, and he makes videos by game design on YouTube. I really liked this thread, and I think this is a little bit of an oversimplified comparison, but he's kind of comparing corporate Nintendo's actions to Satoru Iwata's kind of philosophy that he, put forth when he was alive. But so this is something that people bring up time and time again. Like many of the great Western esports started as mods. Like Dota was a map. It was essentially a mod, right? It was a community built mod. That's how and then League of Legends and Heroes of New Earth and later Dota 2 basically spun off from that, right? Ice Frog was a modder, right? At the beginning. Counter-Strike was a mod of Half-Life. Team Fortress 2. Like these are, massive games, right? It's like, I mean, I've seen Nintendo fanboys and stuff like that be like, well, it's a mod. You can't be running a mod for like a big event. But it's like, yeah, you can. It's just that the rights holder and in this case Nintendo, they just have to not be an idiot about it. So then you got Project M. He brings up Project M. Nintendo's seen a ton of fan games too, right? It's Pokemon Prism, AM2R, which I think stands for another Metroid 2 remake. That's what I said. That one as well. I've never played a Metroid game. It's like, everyone, my theory is like everyone has that, I've never watched blank or I've never played a game from blank series. Everyone has one of those. So mine is Metroid. Never played a Metroid game. So, Valve took one look at Black Mesa and authorized the game for sale on Steam. So, yeah, it's, and then, Liam Triforce kind of goes through some other stuff talking about like, ways that Nintendo's kind of been intellectually dishonest recently. Talking about how Joy-Con drift isn't a real problem or hasn't caused anyone any inconvenience. That's just false. Piracy is almost always a service problem and not a pricing problem. If a pirate offers a product anywhere in the world, yeah, exactly. A service problem and not a pricing problem. This is on the nose. Case in point, when I grew up, when I was 15, 16, I was pirating music left and right. I was on Soulseek. I was on fucking Oink. I was on Waffles. I still have MP3s on my computer from way back in the day, but I haven't really pirated music in a long time unless it's like something that I just cannot listen to anywhere else at all. Like if it's on Spotify, I just use Spotify. But yeah, it's SoundCloud. But yeah, it's the fact that the reason people pirate is because there's no better alternative. But yeah, this is Gabe Newell said it, man. Like Nintendo, this shit about Nintendo not offering their own soundtracks and then taking down copies of them on YouTube. It's like, what is even the point? There is no better service. Like, I mean, let alone better service. There's no service at all. There's no legal way to listen to that music besides playing the game, which is not reliable. You're telling me if I want to listen to a song for a regular time, I got to boot up the game and walk to the room where that song plays? That's what Nintendo wants me to do? I mean, it's just fucking ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, if a pirate offers a product anywhere in the world 24/7, this is exactly it. Purchasable from the convenience of your personal computer. The legal provider says the product is region locked, will come to your country 3 months after the US release, and can only be purchased at a brick and mortar store. Yeah, the pirate service is just better. It's just better, dude. It's just fucking better. Super Mario 3D All-Stars will go down in history as one of the most disgusting games Nintendo's ever put out with poor emulation. They use Dolphin. Literally, it's running Dolphin for 60 FPS, lack of options and features, a timed release window, and a high price point. And then, of course, Liam talks about the big house using Slippy, and the worst part about the whole free Melee thing, it must be stated, is that that Nintendo, in their public statement, they just lied. They straight up lied. They just lied. They just straight up lied. We can't support this event that's partnered with us in the past, that is running this, that is forcing their players to run illegal or illegally procured versions of the game. But it's false. It's straight up false. People say, Nintendo fanboys say people don't rip their fucking Melee cubes and ISOs. You know who used to do that? A lot. By the way, I've purchased the game 5 times. Me. I've done that. It's not very difficult, actually. Moreover, it is, from a legal standpoint, it is Nintendo's responsibility to prove that people are illegally procuring it, not the other way around. And yeah, Nintendo is now Japan's richest company. They are literally the richest corporation in Japan. We talk about Jeff Bezos being the wealthiest man, and we talk about Amazon making these decisions for Twitch and stuff like that or whatever. This is kind of the parallel, right? Nintendo, they're rolling in it. They're just rolling in it. So, if anything, they've got more money than they've got goodwill right now. You'd think they'd try to tip it in the other way, the other direction a little bit. But the thing is, a lot of these decisions they're making aren't even for the money, right? They're not losing a cent off of people listening to Ocarina of Time soundtrack on YouTube because they're not selling Ocarina of Time soundtrack. They're not providing it for streaming services to collect rent on. There is no money that they're losing for this.
Oh, my basic sauce.
Liam plays game. Is that you, Liam? Going over your thread right now. Good thread. Thank you for the tier 1. If you're just some other guy named Liam, then, well, thank you for subscribing anyway. And this is a little embarrassing. So yeah, so one misconception that's kind of tossed around is that people are like, well, Nintendo has to defend this stuff. There's a law that Nintendo has, and by the way, you'll notice that the people bringing this up, they don't ever really go into detail about what exactly this means or the stipulations involved, but they say, well, you have to defend this because if you don't defend your copyrights, you lose them. I'm sure you guys have seen people making that argument, right? If anything, the laws, the thing that must be restated over and over again is that the laws of modern copyright and basically rights holder law in the modern era is so heavily skewed in favor of the rights holder. You know, not to mention, like, you know, most of this shit never ever goes to court. Like, Nintendo's got arbitration clauses and stuff like this. But like, Nintendo has nothing to worry about here, right? Nintendo has absolutely nothing to worry about. And that's mostly to cover for when shit becomes common vernacular. Yeah, exactly. Right? It has nothing to do with fucking Joy-Con boys controllers being sold, you know, controller shells being sold. You know, Nintendo does not lose the right to the Joy-Con logo because they didn't sue or C&D this guy that is using a version of the Joy-Con logo to honor Etika's death and bring you know, raise money for suicide prevention. Like, that's not, a lot of copyright laws essentially untested without strong precedent, at least. Absolutely that is the case. Yes, absolutely that is the case. Because it's relatively new, and a lot of it was written even before the internet era, and hasn't even had a time, hasn't even had, I mean, think about how different things are from today to 10 or 20 years ago, right? A lot of this stuff just hasn't had an opportunity to be tested or ruled on one way or the other in court. The worst part of copyright laws is that there's no winning when you're not the rights holder. If you win the case, you don't get money. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, you still just pay your lawyer. You just don't have to take your thing down, right? It's ridiculous. If the rights holder wins, they get a bunch of money, which Lord knows they don't need. Why string us along for 10 years if you don't want a competitive scene? Because corporations and companies are made of more than one person. You know, someone at Nintendo wanted to run competitive and tried to get it greenlit in boardroom meetings. You know, other people didn't, and power balances shift within companies all the time. I think they were genuinely considering helping. I think the people behind Nintendo Versus would rather be doing more competitive stuff. I think they probably just don't get the ability to. You got to remember, like, just because it's a modded game doesn't mean, yes, like, Nintendo is in their legal rights to do this stuff, but it doesn't help them. It doesn't get them any money. It doesn't get them any brand. It doesn't give them any. It certainly doesn't garner them any positive PR. It doesn't actually do anything good for Nintendo. Like, they are not making any more money than they would have been otherwise because they shut down the big house and people don't get to play Slippy at a tournament, right? That doesn't help Nintendo's bottom line. No one is being deprived of any money. And running the big house, there's this misconception that, like, the way to make it sound the most good for Nintendo is like these pro gamers who only care about money are trying to use illegally distributed versions of Melee to run a tournament for money that they're trying to make money off of what is essentially illegal copies of the game. And well, if you know any top Melee players or Melee players at all, that's just not the intent at all, right? That's not actually what's going on. The money is not what brings people to Melee because you don't make that much money off of playing Melee. And Nintendo's not losing any money off of Slippy being run at tournaments. Right. Didn't the guy who ran Tip Top nearly go bankrupt because his turnout was slightly less than anticipated? Yeah, TOs are constantly. Genesis 3 and 4, I believe, ran in the red. Straight up. TOs don't make a lot of money. They just don't. I hate when people say it's all Japanese culture as if other Japanese companies are half this bad. Look, I have started playing, and by the way, we're going to start playing these games on stream. I started playing Touhou again recently. Touhou is a indie game, you know, huge fan base, right? Indie game, basically written by one man, you know, the whole game developed by one man, Zune. Did the music, art. Okay, the art's not that great, but the music is incredible. The characters are incredible, very beloved. You know, lots of cosplays and stuff like that. Tons and tons of fan games that Zune does not collect the dime off of, right? Zune basically his whole philosophy is like, look, like, I just want beer. I just want to drink beer and make cool video games, and for you guys to enjoy my cute kawaii characters that I bring, you know, that I'm bringing to life, and make these really fiendishly difficult video games. And that's all I care about, and write cool music. And there's like a million, how many Touhou fan games are there now? Probably over 1,000, right? There have to be over 1,000 fan games. I mean, it's like, there's so many of them. And like, you can just make remixes without asking him to their music and sell them at Dojin. Like Comic-Con and events like that are all about free distribution of and free iteration of game properties and anime. That's what all cosplay is, right? That's what all cosplay, fan remix albums, doujins, all of that culture is free riffing on game culture and anime culture. That's like what all of that is, right? It's not some fucking Japanese thing. Because on the other side of the coin, Japan is freer about this stuff than anywhere else. So you can't say it's just because, well, Nintendo's Japanese and everyone in Japan is like this. Like, are you kidding me? Like, absolutely not. Last piece of news over the last couple days was the Squid House. Squid House happened, we talked about this on the podcast as well. But, this was basically a big haha fuck you to Nintendo. This felt like a little W for the community. Nintendo said, well, you guys, basically a bunch of the top Splatoon teams were, putting Melee, free Melee, Melee Nation, all this stuff in their tags and their team, tags when they entered the Splatoon tournament. Nintendo said, well, we got to shut down the broadcast. We can't be showing this free Melee stuff on stream. So they said, fuck you. They dropped out of the tournament. And Endgame TV, the boys, my Pacific Northwest homies, ran the Squid House. In a day, the prize pool went from $1,000, kicked off by Vicious Vish, aka Vish. Yeah, Squid House prize pool went to fucking 25K overnight, eclipsing anything certainly the Splatoon 2 community has ever had for a tournament prize pool. Eclipsing, basically shooting into top 10 Melee tournament prize pools of all time. In a day, this thing happened. Juggle Guy was notified. Basically, Juggle Guy got a message like, hey, can we call this thing the Squid House? Like, a couple hours before it went live. I have never seen, Blur, you know how hard it is to run an event. This thing came together so fast, it would put top 10 TO Blur to shame. And it's a fat W for everybody except Nintendo. Splatoon 2, more interest than probably ever. Like, this is huge news for, like, a lot of new eyes on Splatoon 2, right? A lot of people are, Axe, Mewtwo King, players like that, giving it a try, breathing new life into the game. Nintendo doing a slipshod job of promoting their own game. They're running these events to drive Nintendo sales, right? They're trying to drive sales for the game. That's why they're trying to build up interest with these events. Well, they didn't do a very good job because their own event wasn't what drove the interest. It was ironically, and maybe that's the new play here. Maybe what they got to do is rely on the community to fucking deliver these middle fingers so that more people decide they want to play the game. I don't know. It's very odd when you stop to think about it, but yeah, all of the hype was driven by the community and new life both in Splatoon and Melee, communities coming together. And Nintendo, just more bad press for Nintendo, just becoming a, what if this is all, what was intentional? Wouldn't that be the biggest brain shit on the planet? They're like, they're going to run their own invitational and put a bunch of money behind it. And it'll be way better than our tournament. Their tournament will be way better and it will drum up interest for our game and then people will buy our game. Ha ha ha. So we have to shut our own tournament down. Yes. It's all coming together. Nintendo can never admit they did anything poorly. Joy-Con drift? No, those things work fine. Our tournaments having poor formats? Everyone loves items. No, they spawn in random locations. It spices things up. Double a limb? That's too many limbs. One and done it, Better narrative. Yeah, now the Splatoon community's on board. And I feel like people are waking up. I don't know, man. I just feel like the people that are saying Save Smash and all this stuff, I feel like it was just Melee players at first. And now I feel like everyone's kind of, like, I feel like when I go through these threads, like I look through quote tweets and shit like that. I don't know. I just feel like it's just, okay, well, it's just Mewtwo King. But yeah, I don't know. I've looked through quote tweets of these threads and I feel like more and more it's just normal people. The people are just on the side of fuck Nintendo now.